Revolution Radio proudly presents, live from the heart of the Blue Ridge, Roanoke, Virginia. It's the Just Bernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. Join Bernard as he shares topics that reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience, including world liberty, the esoteric, suppressed technologies, spiritual ascension, and human consciousness. Humanity has awakened, and our time has come to realize our full potential. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Just Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio. We've got a great show for you today, guys. I've been looking forward to today's show. We don't get to talk about this topic only. It's mentioned in passing in many of our discussions with many of our guests, but we do have a very special guest joining us in just a few minutes. I want to remind everybody that we will be taking our questions live via the chat room, please. Trevor Knott is in the chat, ready to take your questions and make sure that we get them so we can answer them for you. Anyway, of course, let me welcome Trevor Knott, who's joining us from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Hi, Trevor. How are you today?
Hello. I'm doing well. How about you?
Good. And very excited that we have, not one, not two, but three GIC administrators on a 2-hour radio show together. This is going to be great. I wanted to just talk a little bit about this past weekend. As you know, many of you listening, I'm sure, were involved in the march against Monsanto. I myself, of course, was involved with our local one here in Roanoke, Virginia, and I've got to tell you, I was very pleasantly surprised at not only at the turnout for being such a small city, living in a fairly conservative state, but the good news is there are lots of farmers in Virginia, and there are lots of organic farmers in Virginia, and we've had it. We are tired of not knowing what's in our food. We're tired of eating poison. We're tired of people getting arrested for selling raw milk. Just so much is happening. It just seems to be reinvigorating the activist arm of this particular community, and I can't help but be curious as to what was going on in your community. By all means, please share it in the chat room, or you can also post it to our Facebook page to let us know. We did spend the day, I myself did spend the day covering not only my local march, but I was covering also the international marches, posting locations, videos, and photographs from all of those. And the reason for that, is the reason why we have places like Revolution Radio here, is alternative media was the only one focusing on it. Of course, mainstream media did post little hidden articles on their websites and in their making short little comments on their news. But I will say several mainstream media places did actually do some pretty good articles and or video on it. I know the one in Tampa, Florida got some really nice coverage. I think the news actually said they had a couple thousand people show up for their march, and for mainstream media to say thousands is a big nod to the activist arm of our country. So by all means, everyone keep up the good work. I want to thank everyone that was involved, not only here in Roanoke for the March Against Monsanto, but around the world. In so many countries that had already banned GMOs were standing up for those of us that still are trying to even get them labeled. So this is a wonderful global community, and we are definitely trying to make some change. And I'm so happy to see everybody working together the way that we are working together on such an important issue as genetically modified organisms. Of course, it brought out the trolls. Boy, that was funny. Hello, everybody. I guess we had some major technical difficulties. I believe we just had a brownout, or my internet was just pulled. I have no idea. That has never happened before here on this. Back to the radio. Let me try it. Okay, I believe we're back. Sorry about that, guys. Technical difficulties. We can blame the solar flares. We can blame the Illuminati for not wanting to talk about Monsanto. Who knows what just happened? I don't know if that was a brownout or if that was the computer freaking out. Whatever, let's get on with the show. We have a very special show for you guys today. It's a special day for me as the empowerment director of the Global Illumination Council and the producer of the Just Bernard show, to literally have one of my colleagues on with me. Trevor Knott, of course, is the assistant director. But Derwin Sherwood is also one of our senior administrators at the Global Illumination Council. He has been a member for many, many years and has been a senior administrator for, I believe, 4 of those years. Many of you might recognize his post. He does a lot of the activism from our site. He takes care of our Exposing the Truth group, actually. Even though he's not a member of the Exposing the Truth admin team, he does admin the group on our site for us and keeps posting all the articles on our Facebook page, as well as running our goddess page. Derwin is, of course, a practicing pagan, as many of us are at the GIC. And I'm really, really happy that we're going to have this opportunity to discuss a very important subject. We talked a little bit about it last week with Laura Eisenhower and the importance of bringing balance back to this planet, being that we are so focused on the aggression, being focused on war, being focused on the male aspect and the male energies of our planet. So without further ado, let me welcome my dear, dear friend, Derwin Sherwood, to the show. Hello, Derwin. Welcome to the Just Bernard show.
Hey, B. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate having you, or you having me on here. I've been looking forward to it all month.
Great.
And been trying to get on and do something with you for a while, because I really like being able to talk to you and Trevor, all of us together. And I remember we did one with all of us, and back when I think Anelia was still doing them a lot with us, and it was just a lot of fun. So I've been looking forward to this for a while now.
Good. Well, thank you so much. And why don't we go ahead and let's just jump in to a little bit why this topic is important to you. I know that you are a practicing pagan now for 13 years. I know that you were running a CUPS group in your local Unitarian church. What is it about the goddess that is so attractive to you?
Well, I guess it really boils down to the mother aspect and the nature aspect, the aspect of the provider. I want to worship and give thanks to Mother Earth for providing the gifts of life, in all their different forms. And I've had some Christian people say, well, that's God that's providing that. Well, that's fine if that's what you believe, but in my opinion, I'm going to worship the one that's directly giving this to me. And I do, of course, love the teachings of Jesus Christ, the teachings of peace and compassion for all living beings. I love that. That's wonderful, and I try to live to that. But for me, Mother Nature is where it's at, and her daughters, lots of different daughters that she has, different goddesses, and I used to be Wiccan, with the duality-based goddess and God, but after a few years, in 2008, when I had my awakening, I realized that I have enough masculine energy in my life to balance that out to where I need more feminine energy in my life. And so that's why I've been worshiping strictly goddess worship for the past 4 years. Rituals are kind of interesting for me. I haven't been in a lot of rituals since then. I used to go to a lot of Wiccan rituals before that. And for my CUPS group, I ran a few strictly goddess rituals, and some people were kind of like, I kind of wish it was more duality based. And then we moved to India, and so we're not really into the community as much here. You know, we got 4 kids, and so actually, you know, GIC is my community now. It's been my community for 4.5 years, and now I really feel like what you and me and Bernard and Amelia and now Isaac and Katie are doing with us is kind of that's my spiritual outlet. You know, writing, blogging, everything that I talk about on there, you know, is part of my spirituality. Even anti-Illuminati stuff is part of my spirituality. It's what I'm called to do, you know. And most of the people within the pagan community, in my experience, no, maybe not in your experience or people, our listeners' experience, I hope not. Honestly, I hope that I've had a lot of bad experiences, but they're always asleep, you know. They're still walking around in the little bubble world thinking that Obama is doing a good job and trying to help us, and they're thinking that Monsanto is not all that bad, and they just ignore the fact that the government's out to get us, you know, and that really kind of hurt. But I have one great friend back in the mountains that she's trying to help me find some land to buy and have my organic farm in a couple of years, and she definitely is right there on the same page as me. You know, she's a little bit more negative and a little bit more down with the Illuminati and just really pissed off at the world kind of situation. But you know, it's nice to have one person in my physical reality that I can actually talk to about it too, you know. But I mean, being on the GIC and being able to post over the past 4.5 years has just really been the thing that I needed, you know. GIC was there for me in 2008 to give me my awakening, because I thought I voted for Obama in 2008.
Yeah,
and
sure.
then I found GIC the same year. And,
oh wow.
And then it was about within another year I realized how bad things were, and I definitely I love that post that I think you posted it on Facebook the other day. It said, I'm already against the next president.
Yeah.
It had the empty podium there, and yeah, right there with you. I'm not trying to be a negative person. I try to live a happy, loving life, but yeah, I'm totally already against whoever wins the next one. I don't even care.
It's a system that needs to be changed, unfortunately. You know, you've touched on so many topics in your opening just now, and I would love to discuss some of them. First of all, I have to somewhat align with what you said in reference to the, I don't want to say in general as a whole, but yeah, in my experiences in the past, the pagan community was very much just focused on paganism and not so much on the entire awakening process. I did feel a disconnect there, and I actually did leave the community for many, many years, just now starting to stick my toe back in the water. And the good news is I've got to share, and I forgot who I shared this with recently. I think I was talking to Roxy Lopez, actually, and I was telling her that having been out of the pagan goddess worship community for so many years, and now coming back by attending the Blue Ridge Beltane Festival here, I was pleasantly surprised at the amount of awareness, not only for things like Monsanto, but for the Illuminati and the negative aspects of it, of dark magic and Luciferianism and Satanism, and there was a time when people in the pagan community thought that, oh well, they're Satanists, but they're still pagan, and I never felt that way. I always thought negative is negative, dark is dark. I don't want anything to do with it. But now we're starting to see where everyone is starting to, let's say, incorporate the light worker factor, if that makes any sense. I don't know if I got to share this with you, so I'll share it publicly on the air. There was this wonderful ritual that I was in about 2 weeks ago, and it was the main Beltane ritual. And it was run by a woman who I was being told that this woman was Wiccan and that it was going to be a very Gardnerian, conservative, strict, dogmatic type ritual, and it wasn't at all. This woman talked about invoking. She did the male to female aspects. She also invoked the one, the source, the source of all creation, whatever, God, the big G-O-D, if you want to call it that. And then the work that was being done was working with bringing light and energy into not only into our bodies, but going down to the cellular level. And she was talking about evolving our DNA and moving and evolving our consciousness to the next level. And I was like, wow, man, are you listening to the GIC radio shows or something? I was thoroughly impressed. So I've got to say, yeah, there was a time where I would have to agree with you completely. There was definitely a time where, there was a big disconnect from the spiritual practices and the external world, and people were, or still are. I mean, just people are awake or they're not awake. But I think we're starting to see a lot more awakened pagans. So I had to share that with you because I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it. But what a great experience that was. So maybe you'll find some awakened pagans in where are you, in Indiana, correct?
Yeah. We've been doing the Buddhist thing here a lot lately. There is that one really great Omnia music video though called Dance Until We Die, and it's wonderful, like down anti-Illuminati and pro-pagan. It's really, really good. But it made me feel really good on it. It was like, oh, there's somebody else that feels like we do. But I mean, there's so many people on the GIC that are right there with us, and that's nice. I just wish we could have a really successful like we've been talking about too.
Yeah. And, the other thing I wanted to bring up, the other topic I wanted to mention, which I don't know what made me think of it. It was something that you said. And we had spoke about it a little bit last week. And I'm sure you remember in the beginning stages when we were launching the GIC back in 2006, 7, and 8, we got a lot of slack from I'm sorry, I'm getting a message here. I just got to see what it is. But we were getting a lot of slack here that pagans are Satanists, or that we are the Illuminati because we believe in they call it New Age, the coming New Age, one religion, world order, baloney crap. And I guess it is crap as far as I'm concerned. I would never belong to one world order religion, but we did get a lot of that, and I remember there was a huge disconnect between the truther movement and the light worker / metaphysical / pagan aware people within the GIC, and we lost a lot of pagans because we were too truther, and then we lost a lot of truthers because we were too pagan, and I'm glad to say that we're starting to see an understanding now that and I feel this is a part of the whole goddess suppression aspect, and this has a lot to do with what we're talking about, is the fact that the world order religions to me are the big three, Judeo-Christian, Muslim, and they're the ones that are using it for control. And within that, the Illuminati aspect of those religions, and I'm not saying that the religions are evil, I'm not saying they're wrong, I'm not saying that they shouldn't, be practiced. I am saying they're being influenced by negative forces and have been for thousands of years. And one of those things was to suppress the divine feminine and create this imbalance, and to create this feeling that we are better than nature, that we are meant to control nature, that that we are the stewards of the earth. And I love the way they use that word. Oh, that means that we're meant to care for it. No, Earth is here to care for us. We have to live in harmony with it, But again, back to that aspect of the fact that people are finally starting to realize, maybe the ancients were right, maybe the Eastern philosophy is right, maybe the old Celtic practices were right. And I was wondering if you've been able to see any of that yourself, and what are your feelings on that?
I didn't quite catch what you said. What do I think about whether or not what I think about people saying that one way is right.
Well, no. I guess my question, to rephrase it, is what are your feelings on seeing this change, seeing the fact that now people like Laura Eisenhower are being more accepted, people like Miriam Delicato are being more accepted, people like myself are being more accepted within the awakening/truther movement, that there's not so much hatred toward something outside of the three religion paradigm.
Right. Yeah. I think that it's
the awakening process for everybody.
I think that it's definitely a really wonderful step in the right direction. I know that like Alex Jones likes to throw around the term pagan a lot, and that really kind of depresses me because I like a lot of the things Alex Jones says. But he's become more receptive since he started working with David Icke. And the same situation goes for the smaller community too. I love how when I was talking to when I was on Roxy Lopez's show a little while back, how wonderful she was, and we have a lot of the same similar beliefs about Gaia, Mother Nature, and whatnot. And it's definitely a wonderful help to have people out there who aren't just I love Christianity, I love Christians, but who aren't sitting there saying, oh, if you're not following the Bible, then you're obviously doing the wrong thing and supporting the Illuminati and Satan. And it's nice to not have that be the main thing anymore, because I do remember when it was like that. It's very depressing. And so I think a lot of people are just realizing, hey, look, we got a common goal. We got to come here together. We got to get past the fact that I don't like the fact that he doesn't believe in my God. I don't like the fact that they give me a bunch of slack for not believing in their God. But hey, we got these a-holes over here screwing up the world and stealing our money and brainwashing our children, and we got to do something about it, because until we do something about this, then nobody's going to be happy.
Yeah, exactly. And again, to me, it's just a very good example of how we are evolving as a human race and as a human community. I think it's about embracing the diversity within our human selves that is really helping us to focus on the things that we need to take care of. And personally, I feel in incorporating goddess and or divine feminine principles is a part of that balance.
Definitely.
Let's talk about, we have a few more minutes in this segment, Derwin, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about your idea of Gaia worship and what does that mean to you. You had mentioned something about MJ and Lacia living as one with nature. What does that mean?
Lacia.
Oh, Lacia.
Those are my two secondary goddesses. I have my own trinity, where Gaia is at the top, and then she has lots and lots and lots of daughters in my spiritual practice. Some of her other daughters would be, before I get to those two, the goddesses of earth, air, of fire, water, and air. I think that Gaia is the main goddess of earth. Lacia and Mary Jane are also earth goddesses. But then I have the other goddesses of the other elements. There are also lots of entheogenic goddesses. There are also different goddesses for healing, for different. I give kind of a goddess persona to a lot of different things. MJ is Mary Jane, goddess of cannabis, who honestly I would have killed myself without being able to have smoked weed when I was younger. When I was 18, 19, 20, I was in a great depression. I only got through that because I was smoking weed. I didn't have anything else going for me at the time, and now I do. Now I have a wonderful family, and I don't smoke all the time like I used to. It's like it's just an occasional thing now. It's not that big of a deal anymore. But then it was, and so I give thanks to her for that. Lacia is the goddess of the Appalachian Mountains, and she called to me when I was young. When I was a Christian, I went to the mountains at the age of 11. I didn't want to go, and I complained to my parents the whole time. And as soon as we crossed the border and I saw how beautiful the mountains were, I changed my tune. I was 11 years old, and I fell in love, and I said, this is where I'm going to live. I'm going to move back here. And I did. I moved back to that area, and the only reason we're in Indiana now is to live with my mother-in-law for a little while, make some money, and go back and buy. I got my eye on 50 acres in the mountains that I'm going to farm. But without my Trinity, my goddess Trinity, I don't think I'd have a whole heck of a lot else going for me, or a heck of a lot else to talk about.
All right, hold that thought. We're going to have to take a short station identification break, and we're going to continue this discussion when we return with Derwin Sherwood. We'll be right back.
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Welcome back to the Just Bernard Show. We are having a really intriguing discussion with Derwin Sherwood about the goddess and the divine feminine. Before we left to go to the break, Derwin, you were talking about Lycia as the goddess of the Appalachians, and as someone who is in love with the Appalachian Mountains, I would love to know more about her. Can you share a little bit more about her with us?
Yeah, I'm working on a blog on that too, that I'm going to post on the site. But I guess I met Lycia when I was in 2008 when I was doing a lot of entheogens, and you tell me if you want to get more in depth into that. But we
will.
I realized that she had been calling to me because she was looking for someone to pay attention. You know, she was looking for a pagan who was willing to pay attention to the beauty in the mountains. Lots of pagans go to the mountains for the beauty, but nobody acknowledges the spirit of the mountains, you know, and I think that she looked at me as someone who might do that, and I was just a kid, you know, and that really... I lived in the mountains for years before I realized this, you know, like 5 years before I realized any of this. And I had a lot of crazy things happen to me in 5 years, but in 2008, everything came together. And when I move back and I have my farm, she's going to be the one that I'm holding ritual for at my farm, which honestly, I'm only going to be a couple hours away from you. I hope you'll be able to come down. Katie will be able to come down. Trevor will be able to come down, and we can have rituals, and it'll be wonderful. But I'm, you know, in the olden days, you know, 2,000 years ago, they were holding rituals for good crops and good harvest, and that's what I'm going to be holding ritual for in her name, for her to help me with that. And I think that that's going to be really empowering to me. I've been doing a lot of soul searching in the past few weeks, few months since I've come to Indiana, trying to think about what I want to do rituals for, because there are a lot of issues that I have with the way that rituals are done today. You know, lots of Wiccan rituals especially, but not even just that. I've been to a few rituals. In Asheville, there's a really nice place called Mother Grove Goddess Temple. And but when I experience other people's rituals, the one thing that I feel like is lacking is spirit, or oomph, for lack of a better term, I guess. And when I watched the movie Myths of Avalon, and they're doing ritual in that's what I'm looking for. You know, I'm looking for a big party where we're worshiping the goddess, but we're having a crazy good time doing it for 5 to 10 hours all night long too. You know, and I don't know. It's definitely. I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking for.
I gotta laugh.
People...
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I feel like I just lived that. And it's funny you mentioned the Myths of Avalon, because I don't know if you saw the video I posted, sitting in front of the Beltane fire and everyone dancing, and I was like, that's what I felt like I was in. I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in this movie. And I mean, the energy was just amazing. And I relate to it. Thank you.
Yeah, you had a really good fire spinner on there. My girlfriend and I spin fire all the time. You know, you saw my video I posted, and
yep.
We love spinning. That's a really the old pagan practice, you know, that a lot of people are trying to reconnect with, and I really like that. That makes me happy to know that there's so many more people reconnecting with that particular practice.
Absolutely. And you know what, speaking of that, you know, let's touch on modern paganism, because of the fact that you know, we're seeing so many similar or let's say parallel type events going on that are obviously, to those of us who have the eye to see it, are obviously very tribal, very initiatory type events. I mean, everything from raids to festivals to Burning Man. I mean, we're seeing so much of it in the counterculture. And to me, it really is what do they call it? An archaic revival of sorts.
Yep.
Of course, without the sacrificing the bull or the human, but more aligned with spirit and joy and love and light and whatnot. But we're seeing so much of that now, and you can't help but wonder if it's just the human, how should we say, the collective unconscious, trying to express itself within our youth and our culture. And as someone who's young, much younger than me, thank you, I wonder what your feeling is and what you've seen with that.
Well, I definitely want to mention, you were talking about how we used to make animal sacrifices, and they were talking about that in the chat room just a bit ago. And I think it's interesting to note that the reason that they used to make animal sacrifices was to say, hey, look, we appreciate our deity so much that we're sacrificing this thing that we need for you. This is a cow that we would have eaten. We're sacrificing it for you. And while I'm vegetarian today, that's because it's 2,000 years later, and we can. It's also 2,000 years later. We don't need to cut the throat of a cow or a goat in the ritual. Today, we use fruits and vegetables. We say, thank you for these gifts, Mother Earth, that you've given us. Here's a small piece back to compost in the earth or for animals to come eat. And we make an offering like that. And I have some Azatru friends back in the mountains that's the old Norse Viking religion.
Yeah, there's a lot of them here.
And in their ritual, they make a red animal, and they would cut its throat, they would cut its head off, and that was like a representation of the old way. But now they're using a little baked bread. They're not actually dragging an animal out there and cutting its throat, And it was a nice little symbolic thing. I think I really thought it was cute as a way of not cute. Vikings aren't cute. But a nice way of representing what used to be, and a new spin on it for the 21st century, and that was really a wonderful thing in my opinion, But I prefer, I'm vegetarian, so I make offerings of fruits and vegetables, and even sometimes my girlfriend makes amazing bread, banana breads and muffins and things, and I have an offering pallet out in the woods here at my mother-in-law's house. She's on 20 acres, and I can go out in the woods, and I have a little offering pallet that I just leave an offering on, and I make an offering once a week. Try to make an offering once a week. I know nobody's perfect, but that's something that I try to do today, and something. And I guess I don't want to complain too much. I don't want to put too much negativity into this, but I do want to mention that I feel like a lot of modern paganism today, the rituals are more rehearsed, more not enough spontaneity, and not enough. I want a little bit of structure, but I also want spontaneity. I want it to be like, oh, well, that's just flowing for the goddess. It's not, I wrote down this long TV show playwright and we're going to perform it now. There's a necessity for some of that in there, some acting and some playwright. Of course, I want that. But at the same time, let's kind of make up a little bit as we're going along and not kind of be reading off of a script. A lot of ones I've been to is reading off of scripts, and that's just.
Well, you're making a very good point, and a lot of that scripted stuff is actually from the Masons and from the Illuminati. And I'm not saying the pagans are doing it, but that style. If you look at Aleister Crowley's work, he used to write these extravagant, play rituals, and they would have these acts and whatnot. Now, I understand having symbolism, I've been to pagan rituals where they do, the death of the Holly King and, the Oak King and the Holly King. And, that's all, that's all fun and dandy. But I will say that tradition in the modern times seems to come from that structured Illuminati Masonic mentality. really, if it's natural, I agree with you. It should be spontaneous. It should be something. I joke with some of my friends, and actually I think I've mentioned this with our admins about speaking or doing ritual or doing meditation or something to that effect on a public sense, that I only write down five or six talking points, and that's my script. I write 5 or 6 words, let that be the inspiration, versus something that is, memorized or, something, because it does lose something. I have to agree with you there. It does lose the genuine aspect of it.
Definitely. I think too, with the Illuminati, I think that one thing that they're trying to do is they're trying to have a lot more control over what they're doing. By rehearsing everything, it gives you more control over that particular situation, because they do practice ritual. They do practice black magic, in my opinion, and they are doing a bastardization of what we're doing. They've taken they saw what was going on 2,000 years ago, and they took some of it then, they took some over the years, they've created new stuff now, whether they are connecting with demons in the spirit world or just holding blood sacrifices for their demon gods. I don't know. That's really so far in depth that it doesn't matter to me. But the distinction that I want to make for people like Alex Jones is that someone like George Bush or Barack Obama is practicing a bastardization of the true pagan religion and of what you and I are practicing. Because you and I are obviously practicing light worker traditions. You and I are obviously trying to help bring about a peace that encompasses freedom rather than a peace that encompasses control that they're trying to come up with, And so that's a big distinction that I think that we need to make for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And let's talk about the concept of Satan, because many people don't seem to realize that the idea of Satan is a Christian creation by who was the first one to use it? I forgot. But it doesn't show up. It doesn't even show up in Christianity until the Dark Ages, I believe. Or what's the name of the Pope, the first Pope, or the Emperor? For Constantine. They really created this thing where, Satan. All of a sudden, they gave him horns, and then so therefore the gods of nature of the elk and the bull and whatnot were the devil, and it was basically used to suppress the goddess worshiping heathen, or, the peasants that were worshiping at that time these nature spirits. And so, the word and the concept of Satan is actually a very modern one. And Satanism is literally the anti-Catholicism. It was basically very angry. I forgot whether it was priests or knights or whatnot, and they turned on the Catholic Church. So they would do opposite rituals, having the cross upside down and doing the mass backwards and, all these things, because they were angry. It was a form of protest toward the Catholic Church. Now, of course, somebody had the bright idea of turning it into a religion. And, then we see, people like Anton LaVey, who made it this pop culture thing. And, I don't know how many people have looked into the work of Anton LaVey, but, quite honestly, I think he was just wasn't he like a circus performer or something like that? And
I think he was.
Yeah, he was just some guy who played, and he was an actor who played villains and stuff like that. And he kind of took it seriously, and people were silly enough to fall for his idea. Now, granted, out of that, unfortunately, there are dark aspects that came out of it. I know the Temple of Set is probably one of the most, notorious dark black magic type of things that came out of it. But to bring it, back into perspective of what we're talking about here, even that is a representation of suppressing the goddess and divine feminine energy. To me, the goddess energy is that embraces life, nurtures life. That's not to say that she doesn't have her nasty aspects when she's disciplining her children or even protecting her children on a, symbolically speaking here. We all have our shadow self, and I feel that, it's important to embrace it. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about the practices that I do. And I'm not very much of a practicing pagan so much as I am philosophical these days. However, my work is more internal when we let's call it internal alchemy. And that aspect of embracing the dark and the light creates the whole. We cannot suppress the darkness and we cannot suppress the light. And again, it's about bringing balance into all of these things. One of the things I do enjoy about the modern aspect of the pagan philosophy is to do what you will and harm none. So those who are still trying to hold on to the idea that paganism is Satanism, well, Satanism is not about harming none, obviously. And the Illuminati is obviously not about harming none. And we know that many of the dark Masonic practices are not about harming none. So how is that aligned with paganism is beyond me. And I've got to say there are people that we have worked with in the past that seem to try to lump this all into one thing. And there is so much more. So my advice to everybody is research before you start creating ideas or creating and aligning with a specific philosophy in reference to your feelings on something you don't understand. This can go with anything. It doesn't even have to be goddesses or paganism. It could just be politics. It could just be regular philosophy. Investigate it. Don't just believe it because Alex Jones says it or Obama says it or I say it or Derwin says it. By all means, investigate and use your intuition. A great example of goddess divine feminine energy is the intuition. And with that, let's talk a little bit about some characteristics of what is goddess energy. What is the divine feminine in today's world? We talk about polarity. We're talking about polarity, and I agree with you in the sense of I align more with the goddess energy than I do with the male divine energy for obvious reasons, but as well because of the fact, for me, that energy needs to be elevated at this time. We need to have more compassion. We need to have more nurturing. We need to have more celebration of life itself and creation versus, the aggressive characteristics of our psychological makeup. So, Derwin, what are some of the aspects of the divine feminine to you? What does she represent, or the energy? Let's speak on energetic terms. What are some of the energetics of divine feminine to you that you could share?
Well, I definitely want to mention one that I used to think was a really big part of my life, was the negative energy that I put toward straight men, especially straight white men, because that seems to be the big group that's screwing up the world. And I really have a big problem with what straight people are doing to. No, I mean, I'm sorry. What is happening to the LGBT community that makes me angry, So, but I was really against men, and that's not what goddess worship is about. And I've met a lot of women that are like that, especially a few that worship the goddess, a few that are Christian, that just don't like men, and they kind of think that that's feminism or goddess worship, or I don't know, but that's not it, and I was there for a long time. Now I realize that it is nature, it is earth, and to me, nature is all of Gaia's creation. That's me and you and men, women, animals. We are sisters and brothers, and we're a community. And so for me to say that I'm Gaian, it kind of, to me, means that I look at everyone as my sisters and my brothers, and that we all just need to get along and create our own world peace, because the people who are running the world right now certainly aren't going to help us do that. And so whether you want to worship Jesus and God, or I want to worship Gaia and her daughters, we're all siblings, and we can all do whatever we want as long as, like you said, we do no harm. Or a better way of looking at it is, don't tread on somebody else's freedoms. Don't tread on their freedom to exist. Don't tread on their freedom to do what they want to do. Don't tread on their freedom to live the life that they want to live, as long as they're not treading on the freedoms of somebody else. And so it's definitely a big circle. You know, it all goes around that we're family. We should be loving each other, and love is the biggest energy there. That's what our mother wants for us. That's what your father wants for you. If you're Christian, that's what your father wants for you. We're pagan, that's what our mother wants for us. Whatever. That's what they all want. Whether they're Christian, Buddha, or Christian or Islam or Judaism, whether they're pagan or whether they're Buddhist, all these religions teach love. Love is the primary energy that is driving these religions. Now, some people bastardize these religions, and some Christians treat pagans badly and treat gays badly. Some Islams treat gays and Christians badly, you know, and it's ridiculous, because all of these things have the same basic principle of love and getting along with your sisters and your brothers. And so that's what we need to be focused on. That's what all the prophets talked about, you know. So that's what everybody needs to be focused. That's not just goddess worship. That's everybody is supposed to be based around love and getting along and coming together to bring down the Illuminati that obviously doesn't believe in love, you know. And so that's what I'm trying to do with my life. Sometimes, you know, we fall off the wagon, we get angry, we get negative.
And speaking of which, let me just jump in here about bringing down the Illuminati. Now, would the goddess want to bring down the Illuminati, or would she want to elevate their consciousness?
She would want to elevate their consciousness. I'm glad you made that.
You know, it's so funny.
Ending the old paradigm, I think, is
right. I think it truly is about changing the paradigm, and you know, the reality of it is, you know, some of them may not even be human. However, the reality of it is that, you know, their spirit is also in a state of you know, that prison paradigm. They're locked into their paradigm of control, of hate, of murder, and that's, you know, as speaking from the goddess's point of view, we want to release them from that bondage, you know. So yeah, we want to change the paradigm, but we don't want to hate them. We want them to elevate to a greater consciousness, I would think. But
I do believe that no one is perfect, and I don't think that you can change everybody, especially not in this lifetime.
Yeah.
And so you have to, and so eventually there's still going to be somebody coming to you saying you're wrong. We don't agree with you. We want to be in control. We need to have more stricter controls in order to have peace. You know, because that's what they're trying to do. They think that they're trying to bring about world peace too. So I mean, hey, it's coming from a place of they're trying to bring about peace. It's just the wrong kind of peace in the eyes of the masses, you know. And when it comes down to it, that's what democracy is doing what the masses want you to do. So, and if you want democracy, you can't feed us Monsanto.
Yeah, and you know, I gotta touch on that, because democracy. Well, first of all, the term has been bastardized, and not only that, if we're talking about if democracy, in its true sense, is mob rules. But if you're manipulating the minds of the mob to do what you want, it's no longer democracy. So, I mean, we're looking at a very, very complicated situation on this planet right now. And unfortunately, it's, you know, so many things have been bastardized. And I would like to think that by elevating the feminine principles of not only our personal psychology, but of our divine self, it gives us a little bit more clarity and understanding and compassion, whereas we're not, and intuition, which is probably, again, my number one thing. Develop your intuition, listen to your gut. If it doesn't feel right, just because Obama says it's democracy, or Bush says it's democracy, or you know, the Prime Minister of England or Canada calls it democracy, and it doesn't feel like democracy, it's probably not democracy, you know. But anyway, we're going to be taking a short break in just a few seconds, actually, in about 30 seconds. So let me just wrap up this particular segment by sharing with everyone. Again, please remember to support Revolution Radio. Revolution Radio does count on your donations, as well as our organization, the Global Illumination Council, does. We are people that are putting out this type of content for free, and your support is greatly needed, not only at Revolution Radio, but at the GIC.org as well. And again, it's so important to support this type of programming with all of that mainstream garbage, ignoring these types of topics like, Monsanto or balance or having a universal global family. Anyway, we're going to be back after this commercial break.
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Welcome back to the Just Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio. We're having a really awesome discussion with Derwin Sherwood about the goddess worship and divine feminine. Before we get back to the conversation, I just wanted to let everybody know that I am going to be on the Art of Living Well Radio. The show is called Esoterically Speaking, and I will be interviewed tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find them at Blog Talk Radio. I don't know the exact address, but I just wanted to put that out there and do a shout-out for the upcoming broadcast. It's always fun to be on the interviewee side of things, and I look forward to speaking with Shelley tomorrow morning. Anyway, let's get back to our conversation with Derwin. And I wanted to ask you, Derwin, so many people have, I guess, people that are, let's say, sticking their toe in the water. They're like, okay, well, you know what? I kind of like this concept. I like the idea of aligning myself with nature. I like the idea of aligning myself with a feminine spiritual principle. Do you have any suggestions for someone who might just be starting to, let's say, look into this particular topic, or are looking for any other resources to learn more?
Well, I would have something different to say to men versus women. For a woman, I would recommend trying to find a Dianic group. I personally think that those are probably the number one best goddess group out there. Some of them may be a little bit different than others. One may be, well, you may not like what one has to say, and you may like what another one has to say. It just depends on who's leading the group. But I feel like that's something that women trying to get into this should really seek out, because that's a very woman-empowering thing. I support their no men stance that they generally tend to have. The group in Asheville, North Carolina, that I mentioned earlier, is a really great resource. They're really good people, and they're open to men and women. But there really are not a lot of groups like that are strictly goddess for men and women. So for women, I would say find a group. But for men, you're going to have to go online. You're going to have to look more. That's why I would definitely recommend the GIC, of course, first and foremost. But also just I think one thing that I know above all else is go sit out in the middle of the woods and ask for assistance, ask what can I do? What can I do? Ask nature, what can I do for this? And I think Marianne Williamson, you posted a video about her the other day, and she said, ask your source, what can I do for you? And she said, you will be amazed at the response that you get. Mm-hmm. And I definitely think that just listening to what nature has to tell you is a very, very important thing that humanity as a whole has lost touch with over the past 2,000 years. And I think that just meditating on it and listening, I think you posted a meme the other day that said, if you have time to breathe, you have time to meditate. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I got to remember that myself,
we all do. That's why I posted it.
Yeah. And so, I think that women, I want to point out women should do the same thing. I don't want it to be like women should go to the group and men should meditate, but there's not a lot of resources out there for men looking into this. And so I definitely want to recommend to everybody to just listen, listen to your heart, listen to what the goddess has to tell you, and she'll let you know. There are tools out there that can help you hear the goddess even better. And I don't want to get on, unless you really want to start, you know what I'm talking about. So if you really want to start talking about that, we can. But
we will later, but yes, we will.
Yeah, there are tools that the goddess has provided to where you can it helps, and either way, with or without tools, you can hear what she has to say. You really can, especially when you're out in nature. If you go out in the middle of the woods and sit down, you will hear what she has to say. If you can quiet your mind just enough, you don't have to you don't have to just cut off all thought in your mind. Just ask the goddess.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Well, I do have some favorites that I would like to share with people. There are some really very well known goddess authors and or activists. One of the people that I align with very, very much is Starhawk. Starhawk is basically doing the same work we're doing. She's not only an activist, a very, very active activist. She's also a very well known writer of goddess stuff. And goddess information as well. There's a book called Drawing Down the Moon by Margot Adler. And for those of you that don't know, Margot Adler, I believe she's like on the board of directors of PBS or something like that. I don't know. She does a lot of work with PBS. But she has a wonderful book called Drawing Down the Moon. And then there's another book. There's a series of books. There's one called The Witch's God and The Witch's Goddess. They're two separate books. Yeah, I know the word witch is a little creepy. I try not to use it myself anymore. But the reality of it is that it's a really good book, and it talks about the principles, the energies. It talks about the different goddesses that are out there that people might be able to align with. So if you remember or have written down any of these titles, check it out by all means. But for me, I agree with you, Trevor. I mean, Derwin, that we have the ability to connect with our own. And speaking of that, let me throw in also Carl Jung. Look up Carl Jung's work. Carl Jung talks about the divine feminine archetypes, and that there is a collective unconscious that we do have a connection to that archetype. There's a wonderful book out there. I'm not going to remember the name of it, but it talks about the psychological aspects of how men may need a patron goddess to make a connection with the divine feminine. In other words, within this paradigm that I'm talking about, men, in order to have a connection with the divine feminine, would need an archetype, whether it be Isis, whether it be Gaia, whether it be Persephone or Demeter or whatever goddess you might align with. It helps to transcend that. Whereas the women can make a direct connection because they have, mammaries and ovaries and all those other wonderful aspects of being a woman. But it's a very interesting concept, and not only on a spiritual level, but on a psychological level of, creating balance within our daily lives and learning to be a much more compassionate person. As well as being a great activist and or a great person on this planet. Derwin, you were going to talk about. Let's go ahead and jump in because it's a very, very good topic. Let's talk about entheogens. I know that you are, or I don't know if you are still, but you are known to do entheogen practices. I myself was one. We used to call it cyber shaman back in the day. That was like 20 years ago, where we were ingesting natural aids to help us transcend our own consciousness in order to connect with whether they be divine feminine or divine masculine principles. But let's talk a little bit about some of your experiences, whether it be with DMT or LSD or psilocybin, and what you got out of it.
Well, let me give you my definition first. My definition is any drug that you can use to gain spiritual enlightenment. But if you're using the same drug just to have fun and get fucked up and be on drugs, then it ceases to be an entheogen at that point. And you need to ask yourself at that point if it's doing harm to you or if it's okay for you. Because a lot of people can go crazy. A lot of people can get addicted to drugs, and they call it spirituality, and that's not spirituality when you're just laying in a hole doing drugs all the time. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I got into to these different things. I'll tell you what I've done. I've done mushrooms, LSD, and ecstasy, and that was all back in college. You know, I'm really not really into that as much anymore. I'm into what I got from that. I still think about what I got from that, and I would recommend trying these things to people if you feel like this is what's right for you. But now all that really matters to me is smoking her, you know, and Jane. But I definitely feel like more natural way to go is the best way to go if you want to learn about the goddess. Mushrooms are what really got me into being able to feel earth energy and talk to the goddess and experience kind of a reality that I never knew existed. It kind of reminded me about when people say it's Samhain, the veil is thinnest, and lifting the veil. I think a lot of people don't even know what the heck they're talking about until you've done mushrooms. Mm-hmm. You kind of, everything was a lot better with mushrooms, and it definitely made me more appreciative of Gaia. I was just a lot more Wiccan based at that point, and it helped me to center that around a more nature-oriented thing, I guess. Mm-hmm. Ecstasy taught me a universal love that I have since lost a little bit of, I guess. I met people who did ecstasy every weekend for years, and that depletes your serotonin levels in your brain, and it makes things depressing a little bit more, I think. Oh, yeah. Those people they had good times too still, you know, but I mean they were kind of a more depressing people, and unless they were on drugs, and that's not how to live your life, you know. But I definitely learned about universal love. I understood what Jesus was talking about when he said, love everyone as your brother. I actually understood that. And it's hard now. I have people that I would say, back then, I didn't hate. That was like 2005, 2004. I could easily say I did not hate people. Today, I can no longer say that. I can say that there are a couple of people out there that I have to have a good hate for every now and then because they just make me so angry, especially when I see things about them on the internet, you know, that just really irk the crap out of me. It's just like I got to complain to my girlfriend or my best friend and I just got to fight. That I definitely learned a lot about love and a lot about peace and love and happiness, and I realized one thing in particular, that something is wrong. Ecstasy helped me realize that to take the life of another person is completely unacceptable. Or a living animal is unacceptable. Plants are different because we're animals and we eat plants, but to take the life of an animal that can run away from you by shooting it at a long range or walking up to it and clocking it in the head with a mallet, that's not okay. Shooting a person in the face is not okay, in my opinion. Taking a life is not okay, and that came from ecstasy. And so that's something that I'm grateful for, because I used to be for the death penalty before that, and now I'm not for the death penalty. Now I'm for life imprisonment, but not life imprisonment where you get a parole and then the guy that got in trouble for growing marijuana has to go to life for a mandatory minimum of 50 years, and so the rapist gets out before the drug dealer. That really makes me angry. But that's the Illuminati system. But anyway, and the last one being LSD, I think that's the greatest one, honestly. It releases serotonin in your brain. It did help me. I had a friend once at my old job that called it the love drug. That was I thought that was kind of nice. But I mean, you're tripping. You know, it's not being drunk, it's not being high, it's having doorways open in your mind that, I mean, you're just kind of, I mean, it's so hard to describe, I know you know, but I mean, it's like when, okay, marijuana is a downer, it brings your body down, and caffeine or cocaine is an upper, and so it jacks you up, and so mushrooms and acid are an outer. They just make your energy going crazy outward, you know, and it's definitely not a downer like a lot of people associate alcohol and marijuana with, you know, and it's not an upper either, but it gives you a different perspective.
I like that. An outer, I like that.
An upper and a downer and an outer. But I've always hated speed, you know, I like cocaine and Adderall and things. I'd never done cocaine, but I was prescribed Adderall as a kid, and I hate it. You know, I bleeped out, and I had bitches, and my friends in college just loved it. They were like, "Oh, I can get my paper done in a night." I'm like, "Yeah, I can get my paper done in 2 nights without jacking my body up and not being able to sleep." But I mean, I still have to drink Red Bull sometimes, and that mess is poison too. But I got to drink it. I have 4 kids and sleep 5 hours after working the night shift, and they wake up screaming at 8 a.m. So I got to drink a Red Bull to stay awake. But I mean, I don't know.
Let me ask you, as far as your experience are concerned, one of the things that I learned during my visiting quest, and I unfortunately I haven't had the opportunity to do any psychedelics in about 10 years. I'm way overdue. But I used to do them approximately every 6 months as a ritual, as a ritual. And when I went through you know, the period when I realized, well, you know what, I'm not going to have the opportunity, the time, or for me it's about time, because you really need a good 2 days to be able to set up correctly. And when I'm saying set up correctly, to me it is about ritual. It's about creating a very safe environment. I used to call it going on mental vacation. You had to have everything prepared that we were not distracted from the work, because to me it's about work. It's not about having a good time. It's about going inside and doing the spiritual work that's needed. And so I would have to prepare for about a day, and then of course you go through it, and it lasts 6 to 12 hours, and then it takes another 12 hours to really, you know, be able to wrap your head around the matrix again. I call it this dimension, the matrix, the 3D, 4D matrix, and to come back and worry about your bills and your life and, you know, being able to sustain yourself. But I remember when I went through that I wasn't able to do it anymore. I just didn't have the time and or the resources to do it. That a teacher had said to me, remember, it's not about the experience, that the trance that you were in, or the medicine, as it's called in spiritual circles. The medicine is to take you somewhere, to teach you how to get there. But once you've learned how to get there, all you have to do is use your mind to go back. And that was one of the greatest things that anyone could have ever taught me, because like I said, it's been over 10 years since I've done something like that. But I can easily, through my meditation, remember or re-evoke that sense that I was in, that natural state of oneness, that natural state of connection, or even contact with otherworldly beings on top of that. But maybe that's just my experience, but I'm wondering, how is it like that for you? Do you have the ability now, or have you tried to just go back using your mind?
Actually, about a month ago, I had a really great meditation. At nighttime, I was sitting out on the dock here at my mother-in-law's, and I kind of went into my own mind, I guess, and it was a really intense experience that I don't think I could have experienced without having done those entheogens in the past. I also do, a lot of people, especially a lot of people who channel and communicate with otherworldly entities, as you put it, look down on people who use drugs, because I can see how that can cause a negative stigma for them. But, I mean, really, it's just that the drugs need to have a positive stigma to them, you know. But I definitely want to mention that from my experience, I was doing LSD in the woods in the Appalachian Mountains, and I just started asking Gaia questions, and then I heard the voice in my head. I heard a reply from her, telling me about pollution, and telling me about humanity. This is just before I found the GIC, probably like a month before I found the GIC.
Wow.
And she was telling me about these things that I needed to know that I wouldn't have been able to hear her voice, so I would have thought I was going crazy. But because I was on LSD, I knew that it was her, and I knew that she was replying to my questions. And I had a big conversation with her, and by the time I had gotten home, I had a whole new spirituality, and I journaled that. You know, that was a big one, and it's actually parts of that are in my my essay on our website. In my group, Goddesses, Entheogens, and Existence Energy. It's called Why Entheogen, and it's all about why I feel the necessity to do entheogens, and why I feel the necessity still to smoke herb, and why I do the things that I do, I guess. And it's really lots of parts of that day are in there, 8808. And apparently I've met a lot of other people who had their awakenings on 8808 as well. It's kind of interesting when I'm meeting another one of those people. But that was the day that I asked her, and she spoke to me, and I realized that this is my new life, you know. And that was then I found GIC in November of that year. So
that was August. Wow, very good, cool. I got to ask you, because we're talking. You're talking about Gaia as an anthropomorphic entity. What are your thoughts on that? I find, for me, I try to use general terms. I call her the goddess, or the divine feminine, or the the feminine aspects of the source energy at this point in my life. But there was a time where I was dedicated as a priest of Isis, and really had a very strong relationship with what my concept of the deity Isis was. And I can't help but wonder, do you yourself, do you see the difference between the anthropomorphic, turning it, not necessarily turning it, but having a relationship with a particular deity versus a universal concept? What are your thoughts on that?
I've given a lot of thought to that topic, and I definitely do not feel like it's just a universal thing. For me, I believe that there are an infinite amount of goddesses and gods, and on different planes of existence.
Yeah.
We're on this plane, humans, and thou art God, thou art goddess. You know, we were created by a God, we are God, and no matter what our religion, you're created by a God, you are a God, whatever. But you and I are equal. All humans are equal, and in that same respect, all gods and goddesses are equal. So the Christian God, the God of Abraham, I like to refer to him as that because that's the same God for Christians, Jews, and Muslims.
Right.
You know, so the God of Abraham is just as equal to Mother Earth, my goddess, or to Isis, or to any of the other gods. They're on that plane. They're all equal. Now, there may be a king of the gods, Zeus. Hell, maybe that's the Christian God. I don't know. It's not my business. I'm here. I'm trying to fix this world. But just like President Obama is still an equal to me, just because he's elevated to a higher level, he's still my equal. We're human. We're still equal. So you may see this person or this God as higher than you, but in reality, we're all the same. You know, we're all equal. But
I like that.
Gaia, I can even tell an atheist, hey, look, Gaia, you acknowledge that the planet is a living being. Okay, I worship that. Or I can say, well, if you are agnostic or you believe a little bit, okay, the planet's a living being. As a soul, I worship that. If she hears me or speaks to me, you may or may not believe that. I do believe it, but that's moot. That doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
What matters is I worship the planet. I worship the spirit of the planet as my creator. I believe in evolution, although I hate Darwin's giving everybody the phrase survival of the fittest, because that okay, that's how it was before we had big brains and could figure things out. It's not survival of the fittest anymore. You know, we need to help. We need to help people out. We can't be forced to help people. We can't force other people to help other people. I think that's wrong. But we want to help people. We need to want to fix the problems of the world and not be greedy and hoard things and not be wasteful when there are children starving. You know, but as far as my deity thing goes, you know, even Gaia's daughters are her equals, but she is the primary goddess, you know, in my life and in a lot of people's lives. A lot of people are dying, mm-hmm. and so her daughters would give her the respect of being slightly lower elevated than her, and she would give them the respect as an equal. You know, whether what the Christian God is doing or what the Egyptian gods are doing, that's not nearly as much of a concern to me. I mean, it's kind of, I want to know that you're doing something to try to fix the world, but I mean, I know what I'm doing, I know what Gaia's doing, and I know what needs to happen for a paradigm shift and for world peace to actually happen, and that's just what I'm working toward with GIC. Mm-hmm. And so that's my theory on it.
Yeah, no, and I can relate to most of what you're saying, because I do feel that, you know, we can have the principle, we can have the divine feminine principle or the divine masculine principle, but sometimes because of our, I don't want to say I have to, the only way to say it is our measly human understanding and comprehension, is that we develop this, you know, anthropomorphized, I can't say it correctly, idea of characteristics and turning it into, well, you know, a good example is the Catholic religion has saints, and those saints represent certain specific energies, and when you're aligning with that specific energy, it is helpful to have a relationship with a being that consists and encompasses those particular energies. You know, we haven't had the opportunity to talk about it, so we're just going to touch on it now. The idea of polytheism, which is, you know, a lot of pagan belief and a lot of the goddess worshippers are polytheists. Like you said, there are, you know, a multitude of gods and goddesses, and the reason why they're there is to encompass those characteristics. Now, I am weary of an entity coming to me and saying, I am the god of water or something like that, because then it starts falling into like Illuminati demonology. But I do relate to that.
Like a Ouija board.
Yeah, you know, then I started, I'm like, you know, but then again, at the same time, I can respect, and I do respect the idea of, like myself, I believe in channeling the higher self, and that the higher self is connected to the source of all reality, or the great consciousness that is the universe, or the universal consciousness. But within that, we have to create the idea that there is polarity. We are living on this planet. There is feminine, there is masculine, there is positive, there is negative, there is active, there is inactive, there is up, there is down, there is above, there is below. So there are certain characteristics that can be utilized to help us create a greater connection with that which we cannot understand. And I think that's the thing that many of us, especially, you know, all of us, especially in the activist / spiritual activist movement, we're looking for answers. And when we're looking outside of ourselves, it does behoove us to align ourselves with a positive idea or a positive characteristic, mythology, God, goddess, whatever it may be. But again, you know, there's that thin line of, I mean, I've seen it even within the pagan community. You know, we call them the witch wars. So my God is better than your God. My goddess is better than your goddess. Whereas they're all aspects of the same thing. And it's kind of like that multifaceted diamond. You know, it's one diamond, but with many, many facets. And I guess that's the point that I'm hoping to try to make during this little mini rant that we're going to be going on break actually in just about 30 seconds. But ever so quickly, I just wanted to ask you, is it fair to say that you also see the multifaceted aspect, or are they singular?
I definitely have always loved it. I heard the diamond story when I was younger. People inside of a diamond looking out, and they all said, "No, it looks like this. No, it looks like this."
Right.
It's like the elephant. The blind people with the elephant. Right. One touches the tail, one touches the trunk, and
well, we're going to have to go on break in just a few seconds, and we'll be right back.
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Welcome back to the Just Bernard Show. We are here having a really good conversation about the goddess and the divine feminine with Derwin Sherwood here on Revolution Radio. Derwin, we really haven't had a chance to talk about some of the, for lack of a better term, 3D stuff that's going on. And I wanted to take this opportunity during this last half hour to talk about some of that. One of the things that I know you're very passionate about is the difference between fossil fuels and sustainable energy, the Illuminati versus the light, so to speak, and what's going on with our planet right now. And I was wondering if you could just start off by telling us a little bit about your perception of what's happening to our planet as a whole.
Well, I think it's all about money and wealth and incurring a physical wealth. And I definitely try to not live that paradigm. Hard to not want the things, but that's what they're trying to instill in us. And that's what they want. They just want more things for them and their family. They want to have a legacy that they can pass down to their children, and that includes rich. What's the best thing to get rich on? Black gold, oil. That's what they want first. And I hate that because, I just got so mad when I realized I watched a solar-powered car race across the country when I was a kid, and they were going like 50 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour, and I was like, I want one. Why can't I have a solar-powered car? Now we have electrical cars that you have to plug in. Why not just stick a solar panel on top of that electric car and plug that into your battery? There you go. No more pollution. No more having to drill for oil because of money. They want to keep selling it. I saw we had an article on there on our site the other day that was talking about that the UK, someone in the UK is pressing charges on BP and Shell, and they're for manipulating gasoline prices in an unfair way or something like that, And that's just all they're doing. That's what this whole war is about. They want us to think that it's about oil, so that we think, oh, well, that's why oil's gone up. They're trying to get more for us from the Middle East so they can bring the price down. No, that's crap. They just want to make the price go up. It's like $10 a gallon to them. They're just trying to get richer and richer and richer. They're just trying to grab what they can while they can. And I think maybe they realize that the paradigm is about to come crashing down around them, and they just want to get as much crap as they can. And I've been trying to get rid of my crap. I used to be a hoarder, and I'm trying to get rid of all of it. I got my computer, I got my Star Trek books, and that's about it. I'm trying really. I still have some crap to get rid of, but we don't need to accumulate things, but our society just thinks that we do. Look at Japan. Every time a new iPhone comes out, they have to have it. Yeah. I've got a little flip phone Samsung that I'm lucky I can text and take pictures on it. I can't even get on the internet with it. So we don't need the next most beautiful, bright, flashy thing. We don't need. I work for Papa John's Pizza Corporation. I don't like it, but I have to. And John Schneider has this mansion that sits on his mansion is at least 100 acres big itself.
Yeah,
not to mention the land around it. This is absurd. This is how they all live, and this is absurd. They step on the backs of all of us to get there, and they have all these things that they don't even need, and that's what it's all about for them. That's why they're doing these things to Mother Earth. That's why they're polluting. Polluting is cheaper. It's cheaper to pollute. Why would you make it better when you don't have to? Why would you care about the animals or the fish in the ocean when you don't have to? That's not your problem. Your kids are going to, it's not even their kids' problem or their grandkids' problem, because they're billionaires. They're going to pass that money down to their children, and their children are always going to be able to buy something in their mind. Once their almighty dollar falls, then it ain't going to work that way anymore. But I mean, heck, if they save up on gold and silver, that'll be the trade if the end of the world ever comes. I don't know what the new paradigm is going to offer in the next 10 to 100 years, but it's going to change. It's going to change, and they know it's going to change. But they think that no matter how bad it gets, their money will always keep them afloat, and I definitely don't agree with that. I think that's going to be pretty green toilet paper one day,
Right. And
yeah.
And unfortunately, it will only continue as long as the masses allow it to exist. You have to accept the system in order for it to function. And I think that's why there's so much, media, advertising, propaganda, and the such and the like. One of the things that you were talking about as far as like sustainable energy, there's another recent article that was posted. I forgot where I read it about. I believe it's is it Netherlands or Norway or somewhere in Northern Europe, where someone has figured out a way to harvest electromagnetic energy and turn that into electricity. And I'm thinking of what you're saying about the electric car. It's funny how, the masses are just thinking this is like the next great thing, having an electric car. But meanwhile, they're still using petroleum-based not green. It's not green energy. It's not green energy. It's fake green energy. When you're plugging into the grid. You're still using whether it be coal or nuclear or something like that. It's still not sustainable. Thank you. That's what I was thinking of, sustainable energy. But yet the whole world is so thrilled to have an electric car. Whereas what you said, the idea is to, use solar, plug into the solar panel. Why hasn't anybody thought of that? And I can't wait to see what's going to happen with this. God us protect him, because if this guy is really able to harvest energy, that sounds very similar to what Tesla did, and the powers that be will go after him. So we have to keep an eye on this guy and keep him safe and keep the technology safe and make sure that it gets out there. Because, like you said, it's all about the greed. It's all about, keeping...
They know that clean energy is there. They know it. They know how to use it and utilize it, but they don't want to. They're trying to make as much money as they can on what they can. And the oil industry is just too big. Why would they ever stop what they're doing? They have no reason to stop what they're doing.
Yeah.
The only reason to stop is if we stop buying it. And that's not going to happen so long as, heck, look at my situation. I live outside of the capital, and I have to drive all the way into the capital of the city just to work. It's a half-hour drive, and I have to spend like $50 a week in gasoline. I have no other choice unless I got a job closer to my home, but I live out in the country, and as long as we're all living that way, then we're kind of screwed, unless we can have a solar-powered car, which they're not going to allow us to have.
Absolutely. You got. I don't want to say you got to laugh, but we kind of have to. I guess laugh it off is a good way to say it, at the insanity of this, and just move beyond it and learn to just go beyond it. Learn to not necessarily turn our back, but do our best to go in the direction that is more sustainable for our planet and for ourselves. And I think that's one of the things that I really love about the whole Gaian principle, is that you're aligning, even if it's not Gaia worship, even if it's not goddess worship, even if it's not acknowledging it as the divine feminine, but it's acknowledging it as life itself, and really creating a harmony and relationship with our planet that is going to sustain us through the generations. One of the principles that we have forgotten is the next generation. There are cultures from thousands of years ago that would not only look up to the next generation, but to the next 1,000 years. And, we hear so much about the conspiracy theories of the Illuminati and how they've been planning this for 1,000 years. Well, where's our 1,000-year plan? That's what we need to start putting together as a global society. Excuse me, gosh, I seem to have a frog in my throat. Derwin, we've got about 15 minutes left, and you talked a little bit at the beginning of the Christ principles. And for me, whether you're a goddess worshiper or whatnot, I believe that the I don't want to say Christian philosophy, but the Christ-like philosophy has a lot to do with where our planet could be going and could be headed in, and aligning with that particular principle. What is your idea of the purity of Christ consciousness versus this mentality of war and oppression?
There was a really great post on YouTube or on Facebook that I saw where somebody was talking about how terrible it is that we have all these Christian people who claim to be Christians that are going to war, and this is the exact opposite of Christianity. And you have Wiccans doing the same thing. You have Wiccans joining the military. You have pagans and Jews and Muslims everybody's just killing each other. And I don't understand where they get off, because they all say that they are following this religion that is they all say that they're following one religion or another that is about peace. And they think that, I don't understand how they can think that they're making peace by killing, but that's what they think. And it's just, they believe in what they're doing, and I can't support that. I can't support going out and killing somebody. I can't support any of it, especially knowing the 9/11 conspiracy and that was a false flag terror attack created by our own government. But regardless, I don't want to say be like Jesus and turn the other cheek, but when you say, okay, let's say for the sake of argument you bombed me, I'm going to come over and kick the crap out of you and drop bombs on your schools and kill women and children for absolutely no reason other than to create terror in your country, that's unacceptable. It's insane, and then to send these good old boys from America calling themselves Christian over to police your country is completely unacceptable. I don't understand how these people justify this in their own heads, let alone to their pastors preaching it to them. I don't know. It hurts. But then I get on the GIC. I see lots of good, legit people on the GIC that are saying things, that are, I don't know, that are really talking about more Christ consciousness things, talking about ending war, and talking about the Great Mother's plan and things like this, and it gives me hope. It gives me the knowledge that we can make it. We have a lot of crap going on right now, but we can make it. We will.
Oh, I know we will. But on what you just said, and if I can expand on that just a little bit, that was one of my first posts ever when I came out as an activist on the internet back, 8 years ago or whatever. Is how can someone who supposedly follows a religion that says thou shalt not kill, but yet celebrate those who kill? The same thing, like you said, goes for the Wiccans. I forgot what it was. There was a Wiccan military thing where they were just so happy because we got a space in Arlington Cemetery, a Wiccan part for Arlington Cemetery. And I was like, wait a second, isn't the pagan saying, and harm none, do what you will? Isn't Christianity, thou shalt not kill? Isn't Judaism, thou shalt not kill? But yet we have the celebration, or it's accepted because they are soldiers or they are members of the military. And this, by all means, this is no disrespect to those who feel the need to serve in the military. This is no disrespect to those families who have lost people in the military. This is a philosophical observation of being true to ourselves and being true to what we feel is a religion of peace. So if we are going to align with that, or we're not going to align with that, we cannot align ourselves with a spiritual cause if we're killing people. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. We cannot make excuses anymore. It's time for humanity to wake up. Murder is murder is murder is murder. And if you're calling yourself a Christian, you're breaking the commandment. If you're calling yourself a pagan, you're breaking the reed. Let's call hypocrisy, or let's not call it. Let's just call it what it is, and turning your back on your spiritual philosophy and deciding that it's okay to kill. You know what? People have choices. People have free will. We have the free will to become soldiers. We have the free will to become families of soldiers. We have the free will to accept that. But what happens is when we are agreeing to one thing on the outside and feeling something different on the inside, it's called cognitive dissonance. And it creates conflict within our spirit, it creates conflict within our society, and it creates a lot of negative health problems as well as mental problems. So by all means, if you think that you need to be a soldier, be a soldier. But don't call yourself a Christian. Don't call yourself a Jew. Don't call yourself a Muslim. Don't call yourself a pagan, because these religions believe thou shalt not kill, and harm none, do what thou wilt. And that's the reality of it. Boy, I just did a little rant preached there, didn't I? I haven't done that in a long time.
But I loved it.
Thank you. But, again, and it's not that it's right or wrong. What's right or wrong is up to the individual. It really is. It's up to the individual what is right or wrong. I personally don't believe in killing. I personally don't believe in the death penalty. I personally don't believe in war. I feel that war is a manipulation of the masses, and that we are being duped into believing it's okay to go overseas and bomb people, or to go to Arizona and get behind that little drone screen and play video games and bomb people. But I don't see that bringing us to that next level of awareness and evolution on the planet. And for me, it just doesn't work. But if that's where you are on your path and that's where you need to be, go for it. But, let's be real. And those of us that are aware, let's call them out and say, you know what? Go for it, but don't call yourself this. Don't call yourself that, because murder is not acceptable in those philosophies that you're waving a flag for. Anyway, with that said, we got to start wrapping it up. Well, actually, we got about 7 more minutes. That's great. Tell us a little bit, Derwin. What's next for you? What have you been focusing on? What are you hoping to achieve in the next year, as far as maybe your work with the GIC or your spiritual work? Any new blogs that you have in the making? Any new videos you have in the making? By the way, Derwin's just started doing some blogging. It's been really awesome. So I definitely recommend everybody check it out. But would you have any projects in the works that you would like to share right now?
Actually, before we started the show, I started about a nice little promo for the GIC.
Oh, cool.
I know how much we're hurting and how much we really need the support of the community right now. I know your YouTube channel is doing, and we're talking about that on our group today, I guess, a little bit. And I'm really going to try to amp up the YouTube videos a little bit. My main focus right now in life is just getting more of that damn green paper, and trying to make sure I'm going to have to go to the Illuminati and ask for a loan and hope that they give me enough money to buy this land and build a cob home on. And then I'm going to farm it, and my girlfriend's going to become a lawyer, and we're going to get it paid off, and then we're going to have 50 acres of land, and maybe we can have GIC gatherings or something on my land. That'd be awesome. But that's my biggest focus right now, because I realized that I'm not trying to go back to their academic college, and my girlfriend's doing that. That's fine with me. I support her, but that's not for me. I got an associate's degree from community college, and I'm good with that, So I'm just I want to get out of the food service industry, so I'm going to start my own farm. I think that's the best way to do it. And as long as I can make my mortgage and my student loans, I'll be happy. get out of debt and just keep on trying to pump all my energy into my spirituality, which as of the past 4.5 years, and I don't see much change, that's the GIC. And that's just where I want to put my energy. I like being able to put my information somewhere where people see it and where people can have free access to see things. And that's why we really need to just be pushing and trying to get as much donation as we can. We really need to get as much help from the community as we can. I have 4 kids, and we don't get food stamps. We don't get, they are on Medicaid, but we don't get food stamps. We don't get disability. I work a 40-hour work week every week, and I make a $100 donation to the GIC every month. I've been for over a year now, and some are easier than others, but I keep finding the money to be able to do it. And I just want to mention to everybody how much we really need, we need everybody's help to come together, because this has been there for me. It's been there for a lot of people. People have come to me over the years that have contacted me and said, I just love what you guys are doing. And just reach out to me, and I reach out to them, and just really try to make a lot of good friendships, try to educate the community, because without the GIC, I might still be sleeping, taking the blue pill and staying asleep, and I'm thankful for that, and I know that it can be there for everybody else. And taking this next step into the new ascension and the new paradigm, we need something like the GIC there, and I want to do everything I can to try and bring in more donations and to get people to contribute to what we're doing more and more and more and more and more. And I want to be a big charity organization, and we can save the world. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. And not only, I just want to thank you for that, but I just want to acknowledge also that, there are, we're one of many, many communities and one of many, many alternative communities out there. And, I have to, put a nod out for Revolution Radio as well, because, they need your support as well. And if it wasn't for, places like Revolution Radio or the GIC, where are you going to get information like this? So thank you, Derwin, for bringing that up.
$5 a month makes a difference. If 10 people give $5 a month, that's $50, And I think that's a lot of people are like, well, I can't give enough to make it really matter. It does matter. $1 matters. $5 matters.
I can't help but notice that you're the second guest in 2 weeks that has brought this up in a row. Lauren Eisenhower brought this up, how, there's this idea out there that those of us who do this are like, we have money falling from the sky, and that, our rent is paid for because we're just such good people. And, our electric is free, or, our internet connections are free, or our technology is free. And, our 80 hours a week that we do this stuff, we have time to work another 40-hour job, or, but it's so funny that, again, you're the second person in a row that has brought it up. And I don't know, I may have to have a show on that, or may have to post a video on that. Anyway, with that said, I do need to thank you, because we need to start wrapping things up right now. We're going to be wrapping up the show for today. So thank you very, very much, Derwin Sherwood, for joining us. For everybody that would like to get in contact with Derwin, you can, of course, find him at thegic.org. What is your profile account there? Is it Derwin Sherwood?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, you can find him on there if you want to contact him or send him an email. By all means, you can do that as well. Read his blog, check out his group. He's got some very great, interesting material and blogs and articles and videos. And we thank him for being a part of our organization. As well, I just want to thank you, and, keep on keeping on. We just want to let you know that we're going to be launching a new series, for lack of a better term. We're relaunching the YouTube channel to feature this radio program, as well as our live stream interviews. We will continue to do the live stream interviews next month. This month, I'm going to be taking a break from that, and we're just going to be focusing on inspirational talks, inspirational rants, political talk, spiritual talk, as we launch the new the justBernard TV series on our YouTube channel. So come check it out. This Saturday will be our first release of the Just Bernard TV series. And it just so happens I am going to be speaking on the goddess and the god. And what is Father God? What is Mother Goddess? I'm going to keep going with the flow of this particular energy that we have going on this week. And we'll take it from there. By all means, it's very interactive. You can leave comments and whatnot. Thank you for joining us. And we will see you all next week here on Revolution Radio. You're listening to the Just Bernard Show. And we're here from noon till 2 every Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Looks like we might have a delay, so let me just remind everybody you can find us at thegic.org as well on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Global Illumination Council.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.